The Blue Jackets allowed 14 goals in the last two games. Patrik Laine is playing center now. And worst of all, the Washington Capitals are next on the slate. We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell button underneath this video, and you will get notified when new episodes go live. And I appreciate it all for hanging out with me today on this extremely windy and rainy day here in Northern California. But we have to talk about the Blue Jackets. I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about these two games because I don't feel like there's a ton that we can get from them, especially at this stage in the season, especially the way that the Blue Jackets are playing right now. But there are a couple of things that I want to touch on, namely that goaltending is yikes. I like that's all I've really got to say about that, and I think partially it's not the fault of the goalies. I mean, Daniil Tarasov is in his rookie season. He has played 16 whole NHL games. Has a career 904 save percentage and is allowing on average, let me just pull up my calculator, but he's allowing, I say he's allowing, the Blue Jackets are allowing on average this season 30 shots or more. Which is not great. So he's got an 896 on the season. He was in goal for Vegas. Allowed 5 goals before getting pulled, I believe. And then it's been a rough little stretch for Tarasov. Won against San Jose, but allowed 5 goals on 32 shots. Lost in Vegas, lost in LA, 4 goals on 27 shots, and then 5 goals on 29 shots against Vegas. And it's been kind of the same for Hutchinson as well. He has only started 2 games for the Blue Jackets. He's got a 2-1 record, an 875 save percentage, 136 shots in 245 minutes. So that's what, 4 games and a bit. So again, he's facing over 40 shots a game, I'm pretty sure, which is not ideal, but it is what it is, you know? Took over in Vegas, allowed 2 goals on 12 shots, allowed 5 goals on 36 shots in Anaheim, played most of a period against the Kings, and in fairness, didn't allow a goal on 9 shots, and then played against St. Louis, lost 4 goals, 23 shots. It's not great out here for the Blue Jackets in terms of goaltending. And I think that's kind of what we figured. And I saw a lot of people so Elvis is away from the team for personal reasons at the minute. And I saw a lot of people being like, well, the goaltending can't get worse with Elvis gone. You know, I saw a lot of people like laughing at the idea that Elvis being gone can help the tank. And it turns out that maybe, just maybe, Elvis Merzlikins was not the problem here. Has he been good this season? No, not especially. But the fact that, like, he has been basically the same as the other goalies, except for Joonas Korpisalo, who, as I understand it, has been very good since going to the Kings, which I do love for him. I'm glad that he's doing well. He's brought his season save percentage up to a 913. He has in 4 games with the Kings so far. He has had a 923, a 933, a 929, and then an 882 against Vancouver, where he allowed 2 goals on 17 shots. But he's been excellent for Vegas. Wow, he has been excellent for Los Angeles. I don't know why I keep getting those two teams mixed up. I think it's the Jonathan Quick of it all, but he has been even better than he was for the Blue Jackets in LA, which I think probably goes to show you that the Blue Jackets goaltending is at least partially a product of the Blue Jackets defense, which, I mean, like, I think we all knew that, but it is interesting to kind of see a goalie like Korpisalo, who a lot of people were like, yeah, he's just a bad goalie. He's, it's not the defense's fault, it's his fault. And then he's had a really good season, behind terrible defense for the Blue Jackets. And now he's behind a real defense and he's thriving. So the Kings have kind of quietly got some of the best goaltending in the league, which is very fun. And could make them a little bit of a dark horse for the playoffs. But so that's what I want to kind of touch on between these two games. I don't know that there's much of anything else apart from this thing that we're going to talk about next. At this point, there's no point dissecting a 7-4 and a 7-2 loss. One against one of the best teams in the league, one against one of the worst teams in the league. The Blue Jackets with the San Jose overtime loss yesterday. They are now 4 points clear of 32nd. Shout out to the guy in my podcast, in my Twitter mentions yesterday, who told me that it was a flawed statement and that I don't understand how the lottery works, etc., etc. I do understand how the lottery works. I was making a joke. And I do, in fact, know that the Blue Jackets are not guaranteed to get Connor Bedard if they finish with the worst record in the league, but the odds are more than if they finish 31st. So that's that. In a minute, we're going to talk about something that I did not have on my bingo card for this season, and that is Patrik Laine playing center. So that's coming up in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you all about FanDuel. And honestly, maybe I should have put some money on Patrik Laine playing center because it feels like the odds of that were real low, and yet here they are. And you can do that over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. That means that if you don't win with your first bet, then FanDuel will basically give you that money back to bet with again, up to $1,000, which is super, super great. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to, I don't know, Patrik Laine winning a face-off. But that might not get you a lot of money, but FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So if you want to bet on, for example, the Blue Jackets winning a game tonight and also Patrik Laine getting a goal, you can combine those bets and get a bigger payout than you would if they were separate bets. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked on. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I want to talk about Patrik Laine at center because he did a pretty good job, which is a surprise. I think is probably the kindest way to say that. I know before the game, when it was kind of announced, I was like, this is either going to be the most genius thing that Pascal Vincent has ever done, or it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. And funnily enough, I think it was kind of in between those two things. So Brad Larson is away from the team due to a death in the family. At the minute, Pascal Vincent is running the game. Apparently, this is something that Patrik Laine has kind of been talking about for a little while, ever since Sean Corrali went down with that oblique injury. And apparently, they decided to let him have a go. And the initial results seem pretty promising. So he played the bulk of 5-on-5 time with Gaudreau and Marchenko as his wings. They had a 15-8 shot attempt for ratio, 65%. And that seems pretty good, personally speaking. He was not great in face-offs, but there was a lot to like about his game. He also played briefly with Liam Foodie and Marchenko for about 2.5 minutes, and they had an even better, smaller sample size, but 71% Corsi 4 percentage. So things to like there. I'm not 100% sure how Patrik Laine's offensive game is going to translate. He did have 2 assists on in the 7-2 loss, so I mean he assisted on both goals that happened. So maybe that's the thing there. I don't know how it's going to change in terms of scoring. I assume that he's still going to be playing that same hash face-off dot position on the power play for the most part. So maybe scoring will come there, but Patrik Laine playing center, not too terrible. And honestly, he has been kind of offensively on fire. I saw a tweet a few days ago. I'm sure it was from at Jackets Insider, Jeff Svoboda, that he had, I think, 32 points in his last 29 games. He's got back-to-back multi-point games. He's got 6 points in his last 4 games. He had 2 assists versus San Jose, nothing against LA. 2 points against Anaheim, 2 points against Vegas. Currently on the season, he's at 50 points in 54 games. I wish if only he had been healthy all season. So he's probably going to top out at around 62 games if he plays all the rest of them. But he's on a 22 goal season. Could he hit? I don't know that he's going to hit 30 goals. He might. He's currently on pace for 62 points in 67 games and 27 goals. He's having a great season. And I know a lot of people were kind of, oh, what a waste. But he's been good for the Blue Jackets. When he's healthy, he's been really good for the Blue Jackets. And I think he's kind of been struggling with the same things that that Gaudreau, has been struggling with, which is, inconsistent line mates, and I believe he's flopped around on the wings a couple of times. So maybe his offense will slow down now that he's playing a different position again. But like I said, I liked what I saw. For the most part, people seem to like what they see from Patrik Laine at center. Winning faceoffs, definitely up there. I believe he went 3 of 17 in terms of faceoff wins, which is not great, but considering that was basically his first crack at it, I'm intrigued to see what happens tonight. He's playing center again between Gaudreau and Marchenko. That's a fun line. That feels like a really fun line, honestly. And if they can get the most out of Patrik Laine, because Gaudreau is the playmaker, Marchenko is the shooter, and I think Laine probably is also a shooter, but might take a step back in terms of goal scoring and take a step forward in terms of this two-way play that they've been trying to get out of him basically since he arrived here. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but for the most part, I'm excited to see what Patrik Laine can do at center. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does against a team like Washington, who are probably closer in terms of actual skill than Vegas. We all know Vegas is a really good team. I will say that I believe I didn't check the period by period stats, but I believe through 40 periods, I believe it was something like 14-0 for shot attempts for the Gaudreau line and Marchenko line, which seems pretty great to me, honestly. So, like I said, excited to see Laine play center again tonight, see how that goes, and who knows? Maybe the Blue Jackets will win a game. There's just no way to know. But in a minute, we are going to pivot to talking about tonight's game against the Washington Capitals. I believe it's the last game of the season against them. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you about Built Bar, because Built Bar it's the best protein bar on the market. There's no other way to put it. Built Bar is my personal favorite. It's everyone at Locked On's personal favorites. They've got a bajillion different flavors. I'm going through grasshopper cookie and lemon cheesecake puff right now. The puffs are marshmallowy and soft and delicious. They're both covered in 100% real chocolate. Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can go to built.com to get them. You can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Sam's Club, but like I said, they are still available online if you don't have either of those stores near you. And right now, Built is doing its yearly March Madness, where you can go and vote on your favorite bar. So do what I do, go and vote for lemon cheesecake, or, if your favorite is a different one, then vote for that. But you really should be voting for lemon cheesecake because it is good as hell. Once again, go to Walmart, go to Sam's Club, go to built.com to get the best protein bar out there, and you can thank me later. Okay, let's check in real quickly with the Washington Capitals, who are on a 2-game losing streak right now. They have beaten the Blue Jackets both times this season. They are excuse me. They've beaten them 3 times this season. 6-2, 1-0, 4-3, all in favor of Washington. They are out of the playoff mix at the minute. Probably won't make it unless they go on a real heater, but they are definitely doing better than the Blue Jackets, who are 2-6-2 in their last 10 and on a 3-game losing streak, and also haven't beaten the Capitals this season. In terms of Capitals to watch, Alex Ovechkin, always dangerous. He's got 3 goals in his last 5 games. Dylan Strome, who is having just a real good season, has 7 points in his last 5 games. I believe he just hit 50 points this season. He's got 52 points in 72 games, which I believe is a career high for him. Yes, it is. He had 51 points in 2018-19, his first season with Chicago. 51 points in 58 games. He's got 52 in 70 at the minute, so slightly lower points per game, but still a career high for him. And he's doing real well there in Washington. 17 goals, 35 assists. He's been playing with Alex Ovechkin. He's been playing with TJ Oshie. He's been playing with some real good players. So I would expect him to be dangerous. Other players, I mean, Evgeny Kuznetsov, always dangerous. Like I said, Alex Ovechkin leading the team. He's got 68 points. He's got 39 goals after, I feel like he had a really slow start to the season. He wasn't healthy for a minute there, but he's got, like I said, 39 goals, which is more than anyone else on the team. No one else on the team has more than 18 goals. So he is definitely leading the charge there for the Capitals, and I expect him to score at least 1 because that's what Alex Ovechkin does on the Blue Jackets. In terms of Blue Jackets that I expect to have big games, like I said, I'm interested to see what Laine does at center. Boone Jenner has 4 goals in his last 5 games. Johnny Gaudreau has 8 points in his last 5 games. So now that Gaudreau and Laine have been kind of reunited, adding Marchenko to that line, I think is going to be really fun. Marchenko is at 18 goals on the season, 2 away from the CBJ rookie record, which was Pierre-Luc Dubois back in 2017, I believe. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how he does. I kind of really want him to break that record. I think it'll be fun. He's got 21 points and 18 of them are goals. And it makes me laugh every time. Like I said, Gaudreau, 63 points in 67 games. He's creeping closer and closer to being a point per game player. And I would love for him to do that. I would love for him to finish strong. He went cold for a minute there, but he's had... like I said, he's had a pretty decent little run of things. Went pointless against Vegas, had a point against Anaheim, and then 5 points against San Jose, 2 against St. Louis. So we'll see how it goes. Do I expect to win this game? No. Would I like to win this game? Yes. I think we're behind the Sharks enough that they can win this game. Either win it in regulation. Either win the game or lose in regulation. I don't want any more of these loser points. I don't want any more of these overtime points. I would like a win or I would like a regulation loss. I want 2 points or nothing. That is where I'm at. And so I'm going to predict a 4-3 win for the Blue Jackets. And I'm going to predict that the opening goal is scored by... Gosh, I don't know. The opening goal is going to be scored by... Who hasn't scored in a minute? Let's go with... Honestly, let's go with Cole Sillinger. He scored against the Ducks and was super relieved about it. And, he He's been looking good for a while, but just not getting on the score sheet. So I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say Cole Sillinger opens the scoring for the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets 4-3 win against Washington. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about whether I was right or not. We'll dissect more of Patrik Laine's center performance. And thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube. If you haven't hit subscribe already, please feel free to do so. It helps me out. It helps you out. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.